So for our sailor's rib, we need to once again print off a copy of our pattern and go ahead and check out what the pattern says. So on our sailor's rib, we're going to cast on 32 stitches with color number 506 French. But this month, I am actually not going to use cotton. I am going to use this fantastic Carlton DK. I actually made a second set of my blanket squares in the Carlton DK because I wanted to try it in wool, not just cotton. And I really like how this yarn works up. I'm going to be using dark denim blue, which is color 17. But once again, you don't have to use the same color that I've recommended here or that I use in the videos. You can use any color at this point because you have now progressed into some more advanced knitting, and hopefully you are ready for darker colors, not just lighter colors, because you can see your stitches better. I am going to once again be using my signature size 4 knitting needles this month because I have them back from that project that I was working on. But now let's get back to what our pattern says. We're going to cast on those 32 stitches, and then we're going to follow the chart and repeat the stitches between the red lines or the stars 5 times across that row, and then we're going to repeat the total chart, all 4 rows, 10 times before we bind off. But remember, we are going for 6-inch squares, so if you need to knit a few more repeats or a few less repeats in order to make your square 6 inches, then that's what you need to do. Everyone's gauge is just a little bit different, including mine from block to block. And so I have to take that into account when I am knitting them. You should do that too. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and take my size 4 signature circular needles, and I am going to cast on my 32 stitches with my Carlton DK wool this month in dark denim blue. So I will see you in just a moment after I have cast on so that I can walk you through how to do that knit 1 through the back loop. We need to read our chart or our pattern, and if you'll note, the first stitch is a slip stitch, so we're going to slip that like normal for the right side, just like a knit stitch. And then what we would normally do is go ahead and knit the next stitch, but because it is actually a knit 1 through the back loop, we have to go in the opposite direction. So we actually have to take our needle and put it in the back and move it from right to left, and then just go ahead and knit your stitch like normal. And all you're doing is you're just twisting that stitch. Instead of knitting it from the front leg, you're going to knit it from the back leg. And then you'll just go ahead and you'll work your pattern as established. And when you come to that twisted stitch again, then you're going to make sure that you don't go in that front loop, you're going to go in the back loop, and you'll just go ahead and knit your stitch just like you normally would, but you're going to use that back leg and not the front leg. And that is a knit 1 through the back loop. So remember, any time that you come to one of those stitches where it is a knit 1 through the back loop, all you'll do is remember to knit your stitch through the back loop, not through the front loop. So now you can follow the pattern and finish your row. For row 2, we're going to slip that first stitch and then purl 1 through the back loop. Just like we normally do on those wrong side rows, we'll go ahead and set our hand to purl and slip that first stitch purlwise. Now when we get ready to purl 1 through the back loop, normally we would go through the front, but what we're going to do instead is take our needle and insert it from left to right and scoop that stitch up and twist it at the base. Then we'll go ahead and purl like normal and slide that stitch off. So the entire premise of this is just that we are twisting the base of that stitch by working it in the opposite loop that we would normally use. So all you're going to do again, instead of going through the front like you normally would for a purl stitch, you're going to take that needle tip and you're going to insert it from left to right and twist that stitch in the back. Go ahead and throw your yarn over the top, purl your stitch, and slide it off. And those are your twisted purl stitches, or your purl one through the back loop. Okay, so now I have knit through that first repeat, so the first 4 rows of my pattern, and you can start to see that ribbing, just like you'll see in my full block here, and it's twisted and it's pulled to the front, and that is what a twisted stitch does, is it really turns that stitch at the base and it twists it closed and it makes it pop up out of your stitching just a little bit more than a regular knit stitch. So now that you have your first 4 rows done just like I do, and hopefully they look very similar, then you're going to go ahead and you're going to remember to repeat that chart 10 times, or until your block measures about 6 inches. And I will see you for the next square. We are going to be doing the seated basket stitch. And that requires a lot of concentration. You have to really watch what you are doing with your stitches and make sure that your knits are where they're supposed to be and your purls are where they are supposed to be. So let's go talk about the seated basket stitch.